See now how the model is going to work. First with a sketch, later with analytics. We have to specify advertising supply and advertising demand. Let's start with supply. The easiest way to do this is to imagine that consumers have two attention periods. So imagine there is the morning, there is the evening, and then they go shopping. Simple as that. There are two outlets, media outlets, with ad capacity per unit of attention of AI. This is the amount of ads that they can put in front of a consumer during, say, the morning or during, say, the afternoon. So the total would be 2 times AI. Each outlet has two different sorts of customers. They have loyal customers and they have switching customers. The loyal customers stay with them throughout the 2 attention periods. The switching customers switch between outlets between these periods. What that means is that the total amount of ad inventory for outlet I will be the amount of their loyal customers for which they'll show 2 times AI impressions, plus the amount of switching customers, which they will get half of the switches in the morning and show them AI, and the other half in the afternoon and show them AI. So they get to show all of the switches, because they're by definition coming to them at some point, one time period of advertising. On the demand side, we'll assume the advertisers don't care when the consumers see the ad, just that they see the ad before they go shopping. So the advertisers want to impress each consumer just once over the 2 periods. I know this is an assumption that the advertising is perfectly effective, but the idea is that really the more you show consumers ads, the less the jump in effectiveness is. So we'll make a simple assumption to make our life easier and say we want to just show them one ad. But the advertisers all have different values on impressing consumers. Some advertisers have a high value of impressing all the consumers. Some advertisers have a low value, and that's what's going to create competition between them for the limited ad space. What this all forces advertisers into is what I'm going to call the impression game. So imagine that a consumer visits outlet number 1 in the morning and they see an ad for Starbucks. Now, if they stay with that outlet in the afternoon, the outlet can kind of knows that, and they can say, oh, well, they've already seen a Starbucks ad. In the afternoon, I'll show them a Zipcar ad. And that's great. So that consumer sees one ad from each advertiser. That looks like an efficient outcome. Now, what happens if the consumers are somewhat annoying and they switch between outlets, between the morning and the afternoon? And in the morning, they saw a Starbucks ad. Now, it may be that outlet number 2 just guesses and puts a Zipcar ad in front of that consumer, in which case, vive la différence. However, because outlet number 2 doesn't know what outlet number 1 has shown that consumer, they could equally have, if Starbucks advertises on that outlet, show 2 Starbucks, have the consumer seeing 2 Starbucks ads. And this poses a dilemma for Starbucks now. Previously, if they knew that consumers were just going to one outlet, they'd say, oh, I'll advertise everywhere. Now, if Starbucks single homes, it's going to miss some consumers who switch to other outlets. If it multi-homes, it will waste impressions. It could have this sort of situation coming up. And in fact, they might not even get everybody, because somebody might not see a Starbucks ad in the morning, switch to another outlet, and miss it again in the afternoon. So it's like, not that great. And so this is a dilemma to advertisers. And in fact, we sort of looked at some ComScore data, and usually you try to get about 3 to 5 impressions per day on a consumer, but it showed out that most advertisers were in fact getting either very too few or way too many advertisements on consumers. So these are wasted impressions. That's stuff that they're paying for that is not having the effectiveness they're hoping for. Obviously, that's going to be the seeds of a lower willingness to pay for advertising. Now, there are all sorts of ways you can think about solving this dilemma. The one would be to stop people from switching. That's kind of the Rupert Murdoch strategy. Put up a paywall and keep everyone inside it. Of course, it keeps people from coming inside as well, out from outside. But anyway, you could do that. The other way, if you didn't track at all, there wouldn't really be any dilemma. You'd sort of want to advertise everywhere, and it'd all just be crappy all over the place, and it wouldn't matter which outlet you went to or specialized or anything like that. You might want to, hey, it's the morning. Well, I'll just advertise in the morning. If I advertise in the morning, the consumers are somewhere, and I'll get them there. This is like the Super Bowl equivalent of how we do that. Now that's all very well, but it's a bit imperfect. Okay, the Super Bowl is one thing, but my morning may not be the same as your morning. What is that time period of which you have to coordinate in time? That might not resolve the whole dilemma. You could go to pay-per-click. Pay-per-click, you're not wasting anything because it's only consumers click that you pay, and presumably they'll only click on the ad once, regardless of where they see it. The problem with that is with display advertising, it doesn't really work on pay-per-click. You actually want to get the people just see the ad itself because it has whatever brand or psychological impact on them. So it doesn't quite work out in this topic. The other thing you could do is you could engage in perfect tracking. I mean, if I could track the consumers between outlets, then I could optimize the impressions to them. There are all sorts of constraints to perfect tracking. One is there's lots of different ad networks. Two is the consumers turn off the trackers. Three is that the law is starting to ban the trackers. So we're not really going to see that yet, and certainly we haven't seen that in the past. So the question now is, what happens in a realistic ad market?